Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GFI Conference 2021 Pitch Slam. I'm Brian Cooley, editor-at-large at CNET. This is just about my favorite part of the conference, and that's saying something because there are a lot of favorite parts of this conference for me. What we're going to do here, in case you haven't been to one of our Pitch Slams before, or a Pitch Slam before, is we're going to have a really good time with 12 innovators that are doing really interesting things in the world of good food, from up funnel all the way down to things that consumers are going to be asked to judge, react to, and go for. So we're going to be looking at a wide array of where the action is happening. There is no winner in this pitch slam. I know the original sort of poetry slam, that was sort of a contest. This is a different thing. These are all winners. Every one of these 12, I think you're going to find, are doing something really important. So we're not here to judge who's a winner. You're going to find a lot of major themes from the conference reflected in just about every one of our Pitch Slam contestants or entrants as well. So I think already in the span of the conference, you're seeing a few things bubble up that you're about to see companies dealing with specifically and putting the rubber on the road, which makes it so interesting. I want to make sure we thank our Pitch Slam sponsors, of course. I think you were just able to see a slide of many of those. And this is what makes the GFI conference go around, as well as what makes this industry go around. So I'd like to just take a moment here to just give you one more look at them and to really thank them all. I know we always thank sponsors at a conference, but these are such an important group of companies that have gotten behind this particular section of the conference because they're so focused on innovation. There's a great number here. Of course, I want to give a particular tip of the hat to Stray Dog, but every one of these is a key partner and a key member, not just of the GFI community, but also of what's happening in the real good food movement. So let's move on now and get into our pitch slam. This moves at a pretty good pace. So I'm going to bring on each of our slam presenters one at a time, give you a quick intro and background of who they are. They have about 5 or 6 minutes to give you their pitch. I'll come back with a question or two. We're not taking Q&A from the audience per se to keep the pace moving, but I'll be getting a good sense of what people would like to know about each company, hit them with a question, and then we move on to our next one. So get ready for what is one of the longest, most interesting lightning rounds in all of the GFI conference. And I'm glad to kick it off now with one of the most interesting stories we have, which is aquacultured foods. And using fermentation and fungi to create whole-cut sushi-grade seafood, which I suspect you've noticed already. Seafood at this year's conference, and in the last couple of years for sure, is becoming pretty close to buzz topic number one in the good food movement. So let's hear now from Ann Palermo, who's co-founder and CEO of Aquacultured Foods.
Thanks so much for that intro, Brian. Really appreciate that. So let's see here. As Brian mentioned, my name's Ann Palermo, CEO and co-founder, Aquacultured Foods. We're creating fermentation-derived, fungi-focused, whole-cut seafood alternatives. 90% of the wild fisheries are categorized as overfished. 170 countries are left with unmet demand for seafood, and global demand for seafood is expected to increase by 30%. We're targeting part of the $2.7 trillion global meat market. Of that, $206 billion is the size of the global seafood market, making our obtainable market be a little bit over $2 billion. Despite all this opportunity, alternative seafood is still considered a nascent industry. There's no major player, so making aquacultured foods poised to become a household name. And we are going after part of that 126% year-on-year growth in the refrigerated protein set. Because our products are all whole-grown, whole food ingredients, they're able to withstand temperature and humidity fluctuations that are really present in the fresh refrigerated set with no detriment to quality. Plant-based seafood is a market white space. So our solution to this is to bring to market whole-cut pieces of seafood alternatives. We're creating shrimp, calamari, ahi tuna, even whole fish, whitefish fillets. Our products are all nutritionally superior. That's because they're grown, they're not processed. We are able to retain all the naturally occurring proteins, fibers, and micronutrients that you typically see in whole food ingredients. What else I really want to highlight is the fact that we have vitamin B12 within all of our products, and that is something that is notoriously lacking in a plant-based diet because they're typically found from animal sources. All of our seafood is also texturally familiar to traditional seafood. We do this through a process of our own proprietary fermentation technology. We are very closely able to replicate that beautiful whole muscle cut appearance, nutrition, and texture. It's something that's so exciting and that is sometimes lacking in the alternative seafood space is our really superior nutritional profile. Currently, we are able to have 100-gram serving whose nutrition is similar to that of cod. So in a 100-gram serving, there is about 80 calories. There is 18 to 20 grams of protein, 10 to 12 grams of fiber. The rest is just water and micronutrients. And so that's how we're able to have a really strong feeling of fullness and satiety while maintaining a very low calorie count. So this is done through what currently have 3 patents pending. We also have a path to about 3 more patents. So it's really exciting, really defensible moat around our IP. The current pending patents are ones for our method of production. We have one on the actual strain of culture that we're using and one for its usage within the food system. Something else that I want to highlight is the fact that our products are all inherently flavorless. This is really wonderful because we don't have to cover up any off taste with a chemical masking agent or high levels of sodium. Because of this, we're also able to have, the flavor neutral base of our product means that we can be very light-handed with the addition of any flavor compounds and really replicate that delicate taste of seafood. Because all this, we see significant cross-category potential, not only within the seafood vertical itself, but also within other verticals. We can partially dewater it and form a chicken cutlet. We can blend the product, create a base for yogurts or cheeses or even alternative dairies. So there's quite a significant opportunity to create an alternative protein platform. So our products are going to be first to market with the whole muscle cut pieces in both the fresh and the frozen aisles. As I mentioned, they're all better for you with the high proteins, fibers, and micronutrients. Our business model is going to be to go after food service first because 70% of all seafood is consumed in restaurants. However, due to the long sales cycle, we are also going to be going after retail branded opportunities simultaneously so that we can have products in the market and really gain early market share. We're going to be able to leverage this name recognition as a value-added play for both food service and retail branded opportunities. So how Aquaculture Foods compares to competitors is that our products are all high in protein, they're not processed, very low sodium, and absolutely no cholesterol. We have a really strong core team, including myself, my co-founder, and our head of science. We also have really prestigious advisors, including Chuck Muth, the retired Chief Growth Officer of Beyond Meat, David Yagi, retired Global Director of Innovation for Kind, and Chef Johnny Carino. He's a celebrity chef and formerly head of innovation at King and Prince Seafood. Thank you very much.
And let me ask you a follow-up question here about the seafood category, which I'm really excited about, especially in the whole cut form that you're going after. But at least I think consumers tend to be a little pickier about seafood in terms of whether they eat it, what forms of it they eat, and what preparations they eat it. It seems like a much more variegated market than the fact that, pretty much everyone likes burgers and dogs, right? So what's your secret weapon going to be to try and gather the market together around your product and innovation en masse, as opposed to having to herd a whole bunch of fractured market slices?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So part of how we're planning on doing that is we're going to be going after, like I say, both food service and retail branded opportunities. Within food service itself, our initial targets are going to be with a popcorn shrimp and a fried calamari because of the fact that those are very consumer friendly options. They're options that a lot of consumers really enjoy and eat pretty frequently. And so it's a really great early entry point into the alternative seafood arena, so to speak, for these first movers. It's going to really introduce them to the idea of what it is, the taste, how it's so good. And then hopefully it's going to open their eyes to other forms as well, because we're making really beautiful alternative sushi pieces that I'm really excited to get out there for our audience.
So it sounds like one thing we've always known about food is breading and frying brings everyone together.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It makes a whole lot of things a little bit more accessible for early movers, I guess you can say.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Okay, really excited about it. Thank you so much. Best of luck. Aquacultured Foods and Palermo, co-founder and CEO. One of the we wanted to launch with them on our pitch slam because whole cuts and plant-based seafood are such a growing topic of interest. Now let's go a completely different direction, one that I find really interesting. I told you this pitch slam was going to be filled with things that are going to come from every angle. Here's an example of that. Reenergy Ventures is focused on a much bigger vision than just food, although they're talking about the food picture here. Zero waste, zero carbon, zero pollution, especially in the Asian market, with something that they call circular cities. And so this is going to be one of the most perhaps expansive views on where the future of good food fits in our society, not just on our plate. To tell us about that, let's hear from Shiva Sasarla, who is founder and senior venture partner at Reenergy.
Thank you so much. Well, actually, right now, Brian, I hope you can hear me. Can you just confirm, please?
You're fine. Go ahead, Shiva. Sounds great.
Thank you. I'm presenting in the capacity of the CEO of Mycovation, and super excited to be here. I'm signing in from Singapore. It's 3:30 a.m. in the morning, so bear with me, please, if I sound a little bit off. So Mycovation, we are Asia's first biotechnology startup offering mycelium-derived food and beverage solutions. We believe that the entire plant-based alt protein ecosystem is fundamentally rooted or anchored around 3 or 4 core sources of protein. It's either soy, it's pea, or it's wheat, with chickpea and other sources becoming important right now. The challenge with all of them is that they all taste alike and therefore need extensive downstream processing. At Mycovation, we are using the power of mycelium to actually shift this texture, taste, flavoring problem upstream and use nature-inspired solutions to get different products upstream through our fermentation technology, so that you have a fantastic downstream product that is Vance. Vegan, affordable, nutritious, and sustainable. And we are able to cater to different use cases that really, truly harness the versatility of mycelium using our AI platform that we are developing and encapsulating the fermentation process in. So at Mycovation, we are leveraging fermentation technology, again, just like aquaculture, to transform mycelium into bespoke food solutions. Our USP is the customization. And like I said, we are Vance, vegan, affordable, nutritious, and sustainable. Just in case you're new to mycelium, this audience is very sophisticated, but mycelium are the thread-like structures, which are the roots of the fungi. When fermented using different technologies, you get different textures and outcomes that you can then process. I'll skip this because this is a very sophisticated audience, but the broad takeaway is that existing solutions in plant-based especially are somewhat incomplete because of the taste, texture, flavoring issues. Mycelium has a natural umami flavor. It needs minimal processing downstream. We are aiming for a really low E number, and we want to use only natural ingredients that the layman can pronounce and understand. And we believe we can actually solve the problem of really expensive alternate foods out there. So what's our USP, ladies and gentlemen? We develop bespoke mycelium products that are custom fermented for functionality, fortification, flavor, and texture. So we have a 3C myco stack that we encapsulate in a predictive mycosmart engine for product development. And we are co-creating food and beverage applications using our myco ingredients. So this is our 3C stack: configure, construct, consume. The configure module of our stack refers to this process of matching strains and substrates from our libraries. So if you want a pink color mycelial flour with 40% protein and 18% fiber, At the configured layer, we identify the right strain and the right substrate. If you want a flour farm or a foam farm or a submerged seafood-like texture like aquaculture did, we choose the right strain depending on your need. At the construct module of the stack, we invoke the right fermentation method from our slate of fermentation technologies: solid state, liquid state, foamy, etc. And at the consume module of the stack, we deliver the mycelial product in a form that our co-creation partners can use. Mycovation's 3C stack in action, ladies and gentlemen. What our MycoSmart AI engine does is, depending on the customer need, it invokes the right substrates, the right strains, the right fermentation method to render a product that our customer can use. What have we achieved so far? We're an early stage startup. We are working with gourmet strains. We've identified 17 strains that fit into our 3C stack. We've optimized the protocols for about 2. We have some very encouraging data on the solid state fermentation and submerged fermentation technologies. We have a flour product that can be texturized and transformed. We also have a foamy product that can render the whole cut experience. We have a dairy analog and the flour as well. So our business model is to co-create with industry biggies. We are working with a global packaging company for a functional beverage. We are working with a texturizing company for a protein analog, both whole cut as well as texturized. We are working with a food ingredient company to develop a masking agent. And we are working with the snacking company to develop a protein snack. We have a great team, young team, very motivated. And we've just raised our pre-seed fund to build, go from lab scale to pilot scale. So I'll just stop here. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you all.
Shiva, thank you very much. And let me ask you, if I look at your Vance position, it sounds like a holy grail. I mean, you're hitting to a lot of important bases there. With that in mind, how much of the good food, plant-based, animal-free meat market do you think mycelium can capture? And I guess you could answer that regionally or globally.
So I think in Asia, at least, it'll be a different category. Mycelium and mushroom are not new to the Asian palate, Brian. At least in Asia, we don't see them as an alternative to protein. We see them as a supplement. So I see it emerging as an independent, important category, not necessarily displacing conventional proteins, but in fact supplementing as a new category of food.
And help me understand your process here. At what point does Mycovation's platform and the outputs of it that are mycelium based and I guess what you'd call the finished producer or preparer of food take over and complete the process? What does that handoff take place?
So we are a pure fermentation company. We don't have expertise in food technology or food processing, Brian. What we can do, or what we are focusing on, is to deliver a product to the food technology partner who can then process it. So if you're a texturizing company, we'll give you a flour that you can texturize. If you're a whole cut based protein retailer, we'll give you a flavored whole cut. If you are a beverage company, we'll probably give you a white label, we'll give you a flour that you can immediately use in your beverage formula. So that's the level we stop at and where our partners take over.
Very good. Okay. Really exciting. Thank you so much for being with us, Shiva. I appreciate it. Shiva Sasarla speaking there from Mycovation. Now, let's move into an area that is in cellular and cultured now. And at this point, we're going to take a look at a cellular ag platform that is built from the ground up for cellular or cultured meat. Whereas a lot of the work that's been done so far has largely been borrowing technology from areas that are using cultured cellular processes for other ends. But that's very different than what's happening over at Unicorn Biotechnologies. So to tell us about their purpose-built direction, here's Jack Reed, who's co-founder and CEO at Unicorn.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Are we live? Can you see and hear me?
Yes, we're good. Hear and see you great.
Okay, fantastic. So at Unicorn Biotechnologies, we're developing the next generation of biomanufacturing equipment to become the go-to manufacturing partner for the cellular agriculture industry. So where are we today? Cellular agriculture uses biotechnology to grow real meat from cells, not live animals. This sustainable, ethical alternative protein source is a promising solution to feed a rapidly growing population and to mitigate the effects of climate change. Amazing progress has been made the past few years developing prototypes and getting markets ready for these innovative products. However, today, the challenge is scaling up manufacturing from test kitchens to store shelves. In order for this to happen, biomanufacturing equipment needs to keep up with the rapid pace of innovation in this field, but today, that isn't the case. Existing biomanufacturing systems are not designed specifically for cellular agriculture processes. These technologies, like you said, Brian, primarily developed to produce simple cells like bacteria, not complex animal cells used in cellular agriculture. These repurposed technologies are not able to grow all of the animal cell types we want to use in this industry, and they have repeated time-intensive optimizations where you need to get the conditions just right to keep the cells happy and healthy that can take years to complete. In essence, it's like trying to put a square peg into a round hole. It'll fit, but it's not the best fit. At Unicorn, we're going back to basics. We're developing a fit-for-purpose, fully automated biomanufacturing system to affordably and rapidly scale cellular agriculture products from the lab to the factory floor. Our patent-pending technology combines hardware, software, and analytics to scale out and fully automate proven processes used in the lab to produce animal cells. This allows us to give animal cells the conditions they like, enabling our technology to produce every type of animal cell. Additionally, since we're scaling technologies and approaches from the lab, we remove the need for these repeated technology transfers and are creating a modular scale-up system that seamlessly scales from the lab to the factory. Once you've adapted your cells to the first module of our system, the path to scale is going from one module in the lab to hundreds on the factory floor. This process cuts down scale-up timelines by a factor of 10, reducing a years-long process into mere months. So we're not just throwing science at the wall here. My co-founder, Dr. Adam Glenn, has a PhD in cell biology and spent the last 15 years working right at the intersection of cell biology and bioengineering. Combined, we have over 35 years experience in biotechnology and commercializing cutting-edge deep tech. We've already completed working prototypes of our system at our labs and are using them to produce cellular agriculture products today. We've just opened up our seed round of fundraising and are actively looking for partners to help us achieve our ambitions. If you would like to learn more or to join us on our journey to drive the transition to animal-free agriculture, I would love to hear from you. Please feel free to follow up over email or to reach out via LinkedIn. Thanks so much, and back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Jack. I don't want to assume any knowledge in the room, so if you could give us a little primer here on structured versus unstructured processes used to create cultured meat.
Yeah, so this is a great question. In the industry, there's sort of a split right now between unstructured products, which are primarily being used for blended, so mixing cell cultured products with plant-based proteins, and more structured products that involve a scaffold or some type of structuring. The system we're developing although it's designed to produce cell mass, it's actually perfectly compatible. We can very easily change around our design to incorporate scaffolds directly into our technology.
Let me also ask you about another angle on this, which is some of the detractors or even the haters of cellular and cultured plant protein in the future say, look, it may be incredibly energy intensive. I heard you talk in your presentation about really shortening some timelines. What does your technology do to reduce the energy footprint of cultured cellular meat?
Yeah, another great question. So because our technology is fit for purpose, we're actually able to fully optimize the processes that we're using. So from everything from putting the cells in, maintaining them, and pulling them out. Because of this, we're able to cut down energy usage by, we're predicting, almost 50% when we're at industrial scale as compared to conventional biomanufacturing systems. But long term, Brian, you're absolutely right. Making sure that our technology and the industry as a whole is able to really meet that goal of emitting over 80% less greenhouse gas emissions than animal agriculture has to be a priority.
All right. Well, I really like your precision and your focus of your platform. So thank you for sharing it with us. And look forward to hearing your next developments. Jack Reed, co-founder and CEO of Unicorn Biotechnologies. Now let's go to one that I think is really a fascinating one that goes after the area of efficiency, a different part of efficiency, which is utilization of resources, a platform for plant-based meats from spent grain that has already been used to create another product that most of us know and probably love. Let's hear now from Steve George, who's co-founder and CEO of TerraBio.
Wonderful. Just give me a brief second.
Of course. And by the way, I'll go ahead and give people a preview. The product that we know and love from which the spent grain comes from is beer. So,
and we all love beer.
I know it's late afternoon in several of the markets that we're broadcasting to, so that's starting to be on a few minds, I suspect.
Well, it's just Thursday, so Friday is coming up soon.
Good discipline.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, everything's good. Go ahead, Steve.
Wonderful. So thank you for giving me a chance to speak before you today. I represent TerraBio, and I am Steve George, the CEO and co-founder of this company. So really the problem that we're facing today is by 2050, we're going to be adding 2 billion more people to our population. And that means we have to produce about 100% more protein by this time. We have to do all this with dwindling natural resources, including arable land. So the problem is we have to produce more protein, especially more plant protein, which we've heard about throughout this conference. And we have to do this with innovations that don't exhaust current resources. And any solution that we come up with has to be accessible and scalable, and it has to be done soon. So that's where TerraBio comes in. So what we're doing is creating more with what we already have and closing the loop on circular economy for food. So we do this with our biofractionation technology. So what biofractionation technology is that we start with an underutilized feedstock. In our case, that's brewer's spent grain. As Brian said, it comes from beer brewing. And then we take that and we split it into its constituent components using our patent pending process. So our two lead products that we're producing are proteins, unhydrolyzed spent grain proteins that are perfect for the plant-based meat replacement markets. We call our product Proteina. And we're also producing sugars, which we're positioning as a highly sustainable feedstock for the emerging fermentation industry. So just to get a little bit more into our lead product, Proteina, like I said, it is unhydrolyzed protein that has a great taste, and it has the ability to impart texture to whatever food that it's added to due to its unhydrolyzed nature. The fact that we're using a low-cost feedstock that is underutilized means that we can keep our production costs low, so it hits all these three high points. And also the fact that this is brewer spent grain, it's an underutilized feedstocks that uses no additional farmland for its production, means that our product has an unmatched sustainability story. So we are positioning our protein as being perfect for food manufacturers developing plant-based products like meat replacement products, but also we are open to the idea of using our protein for snacks, pastas, a bunch of other applications. And just stepping back towards TerraBio, what we're really doing is we are taking widely available, underutilized ingredients, we're splitting it into multiple products for multiple streams of revenue, and once our vision is completely realized, we will be selling these ingredients to our customers at competitive prices. And we do all this with a team, obviously, who are on this slide. So a leadership team has between the three of us 2 advanced PhDs, 2 masters in engineering and MBA, and we lead a team of young and highly motivated people who are committed to making this vision a reality. So I'd like to end by saying we would love to speak with you. Please visit our website, reach out to us on LinkedIn or by email. We would love to speak with you to see how we can work together to create delicious products for a green future. Thank you.
Great story, Steve. Tell me something. Aside from the efficiency and the elegance of using a so-called spent grain for a whole nother life cycle, is there any other maybe taste benefit to that material that would be advantageous, regardless if it had this spent efficiency?
That is a great question. And really, I was surprised when I first tried our protein. Literally took a taste test of our protein. It reminded me of some of the malt beverages that I grew up with. So it just tastes beautiful. It tastes like a mix of sourdough bread and just comforting malt. So that, I believe, is a good flavor. And it's also a relatively mild one. So various companies, whether it's the Beyond Meats or whoever, can layer different flavors on top of that to create a very, very appealing product.
And obviously, it's a fascinating story. It's a really interesting hook. Most of us smile and say, oh, that's really cool when we hear what you're doing. But would it be a consumer-facing message, do you think, in finished products at retail? Or would you bury that and just let people enjoy the product without really getting hit over the head with the interesting angle of where it comes from?
As the years go on, and especially with COVID, a lot of people are really looking at where their food comes from. And I think they would be really interested to know that their food comes from a source that's not destroying the environment. So we really, when we talk to our customers, we say, this is a protein ingredient that has an unmatched sustainability story. It would play very well into your marketing campaigns.
Yeah, I think so. Very good. All right, Steve, thank you so much telling us about the fascinating source story behind TerraBio's products. Let's now talk about getting cultured meat right, and getting it right has many factors in it, of course. But one of those, of course, will be texture. One of the key things we like about cuts of cultured meat. It's arguably as high or even a higher hurdle for consumer acceptance than maybe things like flavor and aroma. And this is one of the focuses over at Boston Meat. So to tell us about that, here's Christophe Chantre, who is co-founder and CEO at Boston Meats.
Awesome. Thank you for the kind introduction, Brian. Can you see my slides and hear me?
Yes, we see you now. Go right ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, really excited to be here. And I think all of the team at Boston Meats is really excited to finally share a little bit more about what we've been doing at Boston Meats since we launched the company 10 or 11 months ago. And that is on creating true texture in alternative meats. For context, I started this company with 3 of my colleagues that I met many years ago at Harvard. And together we were studying how tissues grow, how they structure themselves, how muscle and fat builds itself. And from that study, we were developing synthetic analogs, mostly for biomedical research, but we had this hypothesis that we could actually apply these technologies, this know-how, to actually making meat. Now, thanks to many innovators that came way before us, we know that technology can actually help us get there. It can help us create meat products without the animal. And this started with Quorn, Tofurky, and others back in the 80s, and now more recently with Beyond Impossible that came out famously with their burgers, more recently with their chicken products, and now apparently as of today or yesterday, Impossible with its pork product. But the question is, what's next? Globally, over half of the meat that is consumed is not processed products. It's whole muscle cuts, it's steaks, it's chicken breasts. These pieces of meat are composed of, intact muscle fibers, connective tissue, fat, all organized in a very specific way. And that structure is going to impart mouthfeel, texture. It's going to make it look like an actual piece of meat. And that is what a meat eater is going to recognize as such, and that's what a meat eater is going to want to eat. And that is what we are going after. It's this whole kind of untapped, unaddressed market today. Now, as I mentioned, our founding team spent, close to a decade studying and building biological tissues. And then from that, we invented highly scalable technologies that allow us to create true tissue structure, and in particular, muscle structure. Now, as I mentioned, we did most of this work for biomedical research. And so the obvious first application was, cell culture meat. But as we launched the company, what was very interesting was that we had all these large food companies, asking us, could you apply this to plant-based products? It's a huge white space. There's no plant-based chicken breast. There's no plant-based steak that it's on the market today. And as we launched the company, we pretty much pivoted to focus on that first. And it was definitely a rough start, but we've had a couple breakthroughs more recently, really starting to show that we can get this true texture. And this is a video that shows one of our more kind of recent breakthroughs, really being able to get this texture, and hopefully the sound plays with it.
So it's hot, but it's pretty well. Holy! Wow! Whoa! This feels like me. Whoa! Whoa! That's me! Oh my God!
So I guess you can gather the excitement from two of our scientists, Sangeeta and Jade here. But I think really for us, it's about the excitement is about being able to create true muscle structure. And if we can do that, we can really start to think beyond, what we have right now on the market and start to think of all the new applications that we can go after. It's a whole new world, really. These are just some of the examples that we've, worked on right now on pulled pork, chicken sandwich, tuna. But there are so many others that we can start to think about. There's the other half of the meat market that's really unaddressed right now that we can start to think of. Now, because of that, we really see ourselves as a platform that can enable this industry. We're most likely going to launch a first product ourselves, really demonstrating that we can solve this texture problem. We can really make this true muscle structure. But that will be important, for plant-based, for precision fermentation, for cell-cultured. We are developing, technologies that can be applied to cell-cultured meat as well. And more so towards these kind of technologies, we're definitely open, to partnering, to co-developing, and even to licensing technology, if that can help us really be as impactful as possible in this industry and help transform this meat industry for the better. And with that, I would like to thank our absolutely amazing team. It's been such a fun ride with them. We are hiring for a lot of different roles right now. We're building our marketing team, our operations team. We're hiring for a lot of other scientists. If you think you could be a good fit and believe in what we're doing, please reach out. And yeah, stay tuned. We have a lot more announcements to come in the coming months.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Christoph, thank you for those thoughts. Go ahead and unshare your slides now, and got a couple questions for you. What's it going to be like to scale your process? This is a high bar where you're going. How does scalability work out, do you think, and what time frames? Christoph, I think you might be frozen. Let me see. I think we might have lost Christoph in the ether of internet connectivity. Okay. We will, yeah, afraid we did. All right. Well, we'll have to follow up with him later, but it's a really good question, I think. Let's see. Let's now move to another interesting angle. I just can't believe how good this compass of directions are in our slam this year. Talking about so many parts of plant-based meat, and we end up treading a lot of the same kinds of meats that are being replaced. And that's a good thing, because many of them are the most popular, the most well understood and well known among consumers. So that, the burgers, the dogs, the sausages, and all that. But what if you were to take a look at meats that are a little less common, but exceedingly sort of sought after, especially by people who love to cook or high-end restaurants. Talking this about, sort of wild and heritage meats, lamb, for example. And that's what Black Sheep Foods is working on, which is a really interesting story. So let's check in now with Alice Wister, who's Chief of Staff at Black Sheep Foods. Alice, tell us, so what's going on over there with your interesting direction?
Yeah, great question, Brian. Thank you so much for that intro. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get into it. So hi, everyone. Stoked to be here. My name is Alice Wister. I'm Chief of Staff at Black Sheep Foods. Our amazing CEO and co-founder encouraged me to apply to this pitch slam. So I am here to slam it down on behalf of him and our team, all of whom are hard at work here at our office in San Francisco and tuning into the conference remotely. So without further ado, I'm excited to get into how Black Sheep Foods is raising the bar on plant-based. So I'm sure it's no secret to anyone here that animal agriculture is one of the most environmentally destructive industries on the planet. We must change how we eat. And yet we also have to ask ourselves, why is it that we eat the meats we do? Think beef, chicken, pork. Spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with how they taste. It's a matter not only of price, these meats all being widely available at an artificially low cost, but also a matter of what's easiest to industrialize and domesticate. Cows, pigs, chickens are all animals that are easy to domesticate and industrialize. You can see this here from how chicken have been optimized to grow much larger, much more quickly than is actually natural. And yet, taste is the number one reason why consumers eat what they do. And this is true for plant-based proteins in particular. So the question we're asking at Black Sheep Foods is, why benchmark to the conventional flavors of beef, chicken, and pork when we can instead benchmark to the flavors of meats that are much more tasty? And hence, Black Sheep Lamb was born. So how do we do it exactly? Well, our secret sauce are our branched chain fatty acids, or BCFAs, found naturally in high concentrations in animals like sheep and goats. These funky compounds are responsible for giving them their uniquely meat-forward, gamey flavors. You could think of them sort of like Impossible Foods heme. It's our proprietary flavor technology that we're using to create a Black Sheep platform that will allow us to recreate the flavors of wild heritage game meats, all of which are currently without a tasty plant-based counterpart. And that platform, of course, starts with Black Sheep Lamb. Our first product, it is the world's first plant-based lamb, nutritionally comparable to animal lamb, meaning it is high in protein, but free from cholesterol and free from gluten and soy too. Holy sheep is the only appropriate reaction to this product. So where are we right about now? We are the only company with US regulatory approval for the use of BCFAs to make lamb alternatives. We are the only company with a natural supply chain of BCFAs built out, and we are patent pending on the exclusive use of BCFAs in plant-based products. And to preemptively answer the question that I'm sure you're all asking by now, I thought I just heard someone's stomach rumble. We will be launching in just under a month in select restaurants in San Francisco. Our strategy is to first launch in higher end trendy restaurants so that we can showcase our product first in dishes that consumers are most familiar with. So things like curries, gyros, burgers, etc., before gradually ramping up into other restaurants and eventually into retail. I'll end here by briefly showcasing some of our current investors and advisors, and of course, our amazing flock. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, yes, you all for tuning in today. If you have any other questions, feel free to browse our website, or you can contact me directly at alice@blacksheepfoods.com. But Brian, I'm excited to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, my first question is, how do you do puns so well? Because those were actually pretty good.
Oh, well, Brian, that happens to be my unofficial expertise. I love that question.
Okay, good. I seem to recall looking at something, it might have been a World Economic Forum chart some time ago, but I think even though we think in this country anyway of lamb as being kind of a small sector meat, globally it's a really big one, both in popularity and in greenhouse emissions. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So lamb is the fourth most popular meat globally. And environmentally, it's right up there with cows as being one of the most environmentally intensive, and in some cases actually requiring more land than beef does.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize its footprint
Right.
is really big because it's somewhat niche here in this country. So that leads to my next question, and I think you talked about it in some degree, but straight up, why lamb? Of all the challenges out there that remain to be seen or conquered, what was so interesting about lamb? Was it doable, or was it a blank space that attracted black sheep?
Yeah, so I think there's a few answers to this question. I think the first one being that there's no lamb alternative on the market right now. There's obviously quite a few options now for some of the more conventional meats as well as seafood, as we're seeing here. However, there's nothing out there for lamb. It's usually just like soy with a little cumin, which isn't the tastiest. Second part, I think, would be the environmental impact. As I just mentioned, it can be more environmentally intensive than cows even. And then finally, its unique flavor profile, I think, will be awesome to showcase our flavor technology capabilities here. So we sort of wanted to rise up to the challenge of recreating that unique flavor profile of lamb. And let me tell you, Brian, it was quite a challenge, but we're really excited about the product and are looking forward to launching soon.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Alice. I think it's really interesting what you're doing, and also, so many companies generally in your space are trying to achieve, in their best dreams, parity or full replacement of the beef, the chicken, whatever is out there. But here's one where I think maybe you're looking to actually grow the market for lamb while also replacing it. Yeah, very interesting. Okay, Alice, thank you very much. Alice Wister, their Chief of Staff at Black Sheep Foods. Let's now talk about, anytime I see a firm or a technology that's been spun out of the highly regarded Newcastle University, I tend to take notice because so many interesting technologies have come out of there in this sector and otherwise. And this one has a specialty in making a major jump from batch processing onto continuous processing in bioreactors, which is an enormously important issue to the entire sector in terms of moving forward on this kind of culturing, an increasingly urgent drumbeat. So let's hear now about how Cellular Revolution is doing that with AJ Tarakan, who is Senior Bioprocessing Engineer there. AJ, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for the kind introduction, Brian. I'll just pull up my slides. One moment.
I'll let you know as soon as we see them, and then I'll let you do your thing. I want to make sure all the bits make it over. Don't want to miss the visuals. And by the way, everybody, we're about halfway through our slam. If you just joined us, this is 12 of the most interesting companies that you'll hear about during all of GFI. And that's saying something, because it's all interesting companies. But our 12 pitch slammers here are bringing us so many different facets of how we're coming after every part of the funnel of good food. So let's continue now and see what's up at Cellular Revolution. Take it away, AJ.
Okay.
We saw your slides. Then they went away.
Okay. Was it my slide you could see, Brian?
I think so. I see you at least. So that's a good start.
Okay.
Hit your slide share again. Let's see what we get. I see the little wheel spinning like you're about to share, and there we go. We got you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks very much, and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm so excited to be here and to be able to share with you what our company, Cellular Evolution, a leader in continuous cell culturing technologies, are doing. I'm AJ Tarakan, Senior Bioprocess Engineer at Cellular Evolution. So the manufacturing of cultivated meat is required at a big scale, and the capital costs at scale are large. A few quotes here demonstrate this. To reach a potential $25 billion market requires 1.5 million tons of meat, with hundreds of millions of liters of bioreactor capacity from the McKinsey report recently published.
And AJ, I just want to, sorry to butt in here, I just want to see if you can turn off your speaker notes so we can see your slides larger. I don't want to throw too many wrenches in the works here, but.
Okay.
Let's go into presenter mode
Yeah.
again, but without the speaker notes, because we're seeing those and we just really want to see your slides because there's so much good information in there. Go ahead and take your time sliding in there.
Okay, apologies everybody.
No problem. This is the world we live in a world of remote gatherings. The technology is never as simple as they tell us it'll be. If only the world was that easy. If it doesn't work, we'll have you go back to that view we had before, but let's see if we can get that just right. Because I like to see that done just the right way.
Yeah. Okay.
If you click your present button there on the upper top right-hand part of the toolbar, I think that's where you'll find it. Big present button is what I see anyway on my. You're on a Google slide, is that right?
I'm in a Google slide, yeah. So when I go present, I go share.
Patrick, can you help out? Patrick's here from the GFI team on the technical side.
I have a copy. Do you want me to just pull it up?
Yeah, let's do that.
Would be great, Patrick. Thank you.
Patrick will walk through as you give him cues, AJ. Great. Let's go ahead and get started as soon as we see that back up. I'll let you know when we see that, and then you'll be on your way. Okay, it looks like your slides are up, AJ. Take it away.
Okay, from the start, I'm so excited to be here. The Cellular Evolution, a leader in continuous cell culturing technologies. Next slide, please, Patrick. So the manufacturing of cultivated meat is required at a big scale, and the capital costs at scale are large. A few quoted publications here demonstrate that to reach a potential $25 billion market requires 1.5 million tons of meat, with hundreds of millions of liters of bioreactor capacity, according to the recently published McKinsey report. A 10,000 ton per annum plant could cost $450 million, according to the CE Delft techno-economic analysis. And it just have recently announced their plant build in Qatar with reported possible costs of $200 million. So this iterates my point of cultured meat being big in volumes and capital costs are large. Next slide, please, Patrick. So the offering, Cellular Evolution's patent-pending peptide-based coating allows for the continuous detachment of adherent cells. This allows for the process to move from batch processing to continuous processing. And the benefits of continuous processing can be seen here, where a cell line that doubles every 24 hours would produce over 2.5 times the amount in the same reactor volume using a batch process. By adopting continuous manufacturing methods for cultured meat, there are very significant costs of goods reductions at scale. Next slide, please. So what we can say is overall there's a huge cost of reduction, of goods reduction in a very price sensitive market using our peptide-based coating. Reactor volumes are reduced by 3 times. This leads to significant capital cost savings, tens to hundreds of millions of dollars at large scale, using a fully closed and automated system with significant resource reduction and overall footprint reduction. Next slide, please, Patrick. So Cellular Evolution are revolutionizing the way adherent cells are grown and taken to the market by significantly reducing product costs at scale compared to batch processing. Please do contact us to explore how this technology could be of benefit to your products and manufacturing processes. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, AJ, and thanks for working with us on getting the technology to work there. So it was great to see your presentation and really hear all your thoughts. Quick question before we let you go is, what do you think is the biggest single challenge to get to continuous processing for those of us who are lay people in terms of the technology that you're developing?
Sure, Brian. I think personally, one of the challenges is that the easiest system to start working with at the lab scale is a batch process. And ultimately, as companies slowly scale up and from lab scale to pilot scale, demonstration scale, if they started in a batch process in the lab, the most straightforward, quickest thing to do is to scale that batch process up to a larger one. However, I think the biggest challenge is really to begin with the end in mind by saying, well, actually, we want to achieve large-scale processing, and therefore there is that technology change needs to be shifted at some point. And so rather than scaling up from the lab to the production scale, I think the challenge is to scale down from the production scale to the lab scale and demonstrate those technologies that are required in production processes in the lab scale at a small scale versus the other way around, taking what is being done in the lab and making it larger.
Interesting. Okay, so it's kind of a different take on something that I know is one of the entrepreneur's dilemmas. For example, trying to take a small company, and there's always that critical moment when you have to turn it into a much larger concern. And it's not just a continuum; it's actually a real jump in the line there. And it's fascinating how you're looking to say, look, let's bring the big picture down to the small scale. So I've already made that. You've already integrated that in. Very good. Thank you for the insights, AJ. AJ Tarakan from Cellular Revolution. Let's move now to let's go to Singapore, where so much of the action is in this sector. And now hear from a company that kind of doesn't need a whole lot of introduction, well known around these circles, and so much of what they do is in the name. Umami Meats, a Singapore-based developer of animal-free seafood. Again, one of the top topics you heard about right away at the open of the conference this year. Mihir Prashad is co-founder and CEO. Mihir, tell us what's going on at Umami.
Thanks very much for the intro, Brian, and good morning to everyone here from early morning on Friday from Singapore. Let me share my screen here. Are you able to see the full screen now?
Let me take a look. I'll let you know as soon as we see your slides. Loading up now, and you're good to go. Take it away.
Perfect. So good morning, everyone. Today I'm here to tell you a little bit more about what we're working on at Umami Meats and how we're striving to cultivate the future of sustainable seafood. As a company, we are focused on creating a future vision where we can consume healthy and sustainable seafood, but without having to sacrifice animals, the oceans, or any of the resources on our planet at that level. So what we're doing is cultivating that sustainable seafood future by crafting delicious, affordable, and nutritious cell-cultured seafood that's better for our health, our oceans, and our planet. And the reason that we're focused on seafood is that we see a really imminent threat that we need to help mitigate here around the sustainability of our oceans and our fisheries. Climate change is one aspect of that that's making our oceans perhaps a little bit less survivable for many fish species, but we're already overfishing most of those fish species, not accounting for the dramatic growth in demand that's expected to occur, particularly here in Asia Pacific. By 2050, global seafood demand is expected to double, and much of that is going to come from middle-class growth here in Asia Pacific. So without new production methods, we're looking at collapse of many of our ocean fisheries. And as an ocean enthusiast and lover of all ocean sports, I really hope that that is something we can avoid. Our solution is to work on producing seafood from cells rather than catching fish. So we start with proprietary growth serum and cell lines that we're developing in-house. We proliferate those in bioreactors, and then we use novel structuring technology to make the structures you expect from seafood as compared to those you expect from meats. We see a broad range of end applications for the products we make. This could be on the high end from sushi and surimi to things like fish fillets and even steaks for the meatier fish. and then more affordable intro-level products for hybrid plant and cell-based structures, and even into pet food, which is a surprisingly large consumer of fish products. But the number one hurdle, as has been discussed many times at this conference and other GFI events, is the cost of cell culture media. And the driver of cell culture media cost today is the growth serum, which today started coming from bovine serum, is now moving more to recombinant growth factors, but price is still a challenge. At Umami Meats, we've developed a novel growth supplement that we can produce for $10 per liter at lab scale today, and our commercial costs are less than $1 per liter, which would enable us to reduce that cost from 1,000-fold too high to right in line with price parity. And really, that's our goal, is to create the platform for achieving price parity for cultivated seafood. It starts with the growth serum, where the supplement helps us drive costs down early and to get to animal component-free media early on. But we also think the cell lines are a really important part of the story. If you think about a car engine, you can make a really great, efficient fuel, but if your engine can't process that fuel optimally, you're leaving a lot of performance on the table. So for us, the goal is to optimize the cell lines alongside the growth serum to develop that leading platform for minimizing the cost of large-scale cell culture and to make cell-cultured seafood achieve price parity within the next few years. And we see a massive opportunity within seafood. We're focused on species that can't easily be farmed, where consumer demand is growing, and which are already overfished or otherwise noted as being under a threat of some kind. The priority species we're working on today include Japanese eel, yellowfin tuna, and red snapper, and this will allow us to create a wide variety of fish products from the oilier fish that are high omega-3 down to the white meat fish that are highly versatile for a number of end consumer products. Total seafood is a massive and growing market, and if we assume that AT Kearney is correct and that by 2030 we can actually achieve 10% of this market being cell-based, there's a $3.5 billion opportunity for us to capture with just these three first species alone. Our team has almost 30 years of experience developing cell lines from fish and using non-GM methods to get them to do the things we want them to do, like turn into muscle and to form structures. And so we're really excited to meet others at this conference who have interest in talking with us, as well as to explore the possibilities of what we could do in sustainable seafood. Thanks so much for your time, and look forward to meeting with you.
Thank you, Mihir. Let me ask you, as I listen to your pitch, let me ask you how vertical you intend to be in terms of using your technology to create your products, or are you looking to do a proof of concept and license your technology to others who will create the end foods? What's your big strategy?
So we think the winning strategy is a bit of both there. We think especially going into the early products and the high-end restaurants, we can go direct and make those sort of fully integrated products. But to really reach mass market, seafood is eaten in a wide variety of forms that tend to differ country to country. And so we think the best way to really tackle that is to work with partners who can create the end formulation of the consumer product where we supply the fish, basically as you would get from a fish processor today. Okay.
And so many textures and types of seafood, which is something we talked about earlier here in the Pitch Slam. Are they fairly alike when you're up funnel in the basic technology, and then they differentiate a little later in the process, if I'm imagining this right, or is there really a completely different vertical path for different types of seafood? You mentioned eel versus yellowfin tuna; those seem very different to me.
So the end product is certainly very, very different, right? And the way it's consumed tends to be quite different. But the upstream processing, as you mentioned, is quite similar, especially in our process. Our goal is to aim for as much of a platform as possible, especially on the upstream side. The downstream end product formulation and structuring is going to be necessary to be somewhat optimized for if you're making fish balls for laksa here in Singapore, or if you're making eel that needs to be grilled. Those end structures look quite different.
Okay, very good. Mihir, thank you so much for telling us what's going on at Umami Meats, and a lot of interesting things happening there in Singapore at their facility, and so many others, as we know. Let's now turn to an interesting company doing a hybrid of fermentation and animal muscle proteins, bringing those together, linking them together, as I understand it, and also then going in two different paths with a fork that yields human food, but also is addressing the pet food market, which is an interesting one to many people who are trying to solve a complete 360 of where meat is consumed and the ills that it causes. Joining us now to talk about this from FiberWorks Foods is Chen-Fen Liu, who's co-founder and CEO. Chen-Fen, welcome, and tell us what's going on at your place.
Thank you, Brian, for the kind introduction. Let me pull up the slide.
Yes, and I'll let you know as soon as we see those. And we'll find out what's going on at FiberWorks. We've got them. Go right ahead.
Can you see the slide?
Yes, ready to go.
All right. Hi, my name is Chen-Fen Liu, the founder and CEO of FiberWorks Foods. First, I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation to this great event. So today I'm excited to tell you more about our technology. You probably have heard of growing chicken or beef without the animal in a bioreactor. But can you imagine growing chicken or beef protein without the animal cells and at a cost that everyone can afford? At FiberWorks, we're developing animal-free precision fermentation-based meat protein for food companies to formulate better tasting, better nutrition, and affordable meat alternatives. So to this audience, I probably don't need to talk too much about the problem of animal agriculture. Go down, next slide. So the holy grail to a great meat alternative product is to replicate that authentic meaty taste and meaty texture. And if we think about the meaty taste and texture, it can really be divided into three elements. So at the top of the pyramid is the blood that gives the meat its flavor and color. And at the middle is animal fat that gives its mouthfeel and taste. And the base of the pyramid is the protein that gives the meat its main texture, taste, and nutrition. So most of the companies working in this field are using cellular agriculture, which is great, but FiberWorks is unique in that it's focusing on using precision fermentation to make these real meat proteins. So you might ask, why fermentation? Well, this is how fast that different cells grow in 24 hours if you give it enough nutrients. From a single cell in 24 hours, you'll get 2 cow cells, or 4 chicken cells, or thousands of fungal cells, or billions of yeast cells, or trillions of bacterial cells. So by using fermentation of the microbes on the left, we can significantly speed up the growth of these animal protein and lower the production cost. So recently, the growth of plant-based meat really accelerated to about 19% in 2020 from 14% in 2019. Plant-based meat alternatives are great, but the hydrocolloid-based additives not only compromise the clean label image, but also present a major production cost for plant-based meat companies. The top 3 texturizing additives, methylcellulose, arginine, and carrageenan, adds up to about $1.9 billion in 2020. So the flow diagram here shows you how our process works. DNA encoding muscle protein is synthesized in a lab, completely animal-free, and put in the edible microbial hosts. This meat protein will grow in this fermentation process and be harvested and cross-linked with plant-based proteins to replace these hydrocolloid-based additives. We're the world's first company to develop a precision fermentation-based meat protein ingredients for food companies. Recently, we have developed a proprietary downstream process that can purify our protein in a very robust and low-cost way. Finally, yeast and bacteria grow fast, and the medium are fairly low cost. So our business model is B2B, providing a hydrocolloid replacing protein ingredient to food ingredient companies and consumer packaging companies. And recently, we have some major breakthroughs. Our first batch of protein was a huge success. It cooks like protein, it shrinks and cures when you cook it, and the texture is really good. And the most amazing thing is that the whole process of making this piece of meat only takes 3 days. So we are a team of seasoned innovators and entrepreneurs. We have a combined of 50 years of experience in muscle protein biochemistry. So currently we're funded by small investment from Brink Accelerator, Big Idea Venture, and also National Science Foundation. We're raising an equity round to further scale up our technology. So we're still at the early inning of this alternative protein revolution. The market penetration is still in the low single digits, so truly exciting time to be in this industry. I'm looking forward to working a lot of you here today to advance this industry. Thank you.
Let me make sure I have this right now. Tell me, just clarify for me one more time this, because it's such a new idea that you've got here. This hybrid of fermentation and animal muscle proteins, but without drawing them from the typical sort of source, I guess, like fetal bovine source.
Exactly. So we are piggyback on the microbial host machinery to grow these meat protein. So so this process will be similar to Perfect Day, Gelator, other precision fermentation companies that are making animal protein, but what we're different is we make a real meat protein. Since consumers really care about that meaty texture and meaty taste, so we think by making a real protein in microbes, we can really satisfy those needs. And the advantage of using microbes is that they grow so fast. They're so productive. Like the example I show in the presentation, it only took us 3 days to grow that piece of meat rather than weeks and months, like using other technologies.
And I always find, at least in my mind, I find a lot of parallels between this sector and the automotive industry. In the automotive industry, when they hybridize, quite literally, they end up with a propulsion system from combustion and another one that's electric. It ends up creating a fairly complicated and typically a more expensive vehicle. Is there any analogy here where you have to wrestle two systems and their overhead and optimize those down the road, or is this more elegant, not duplicative?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like a transition from horses and buggies to combustion engines, or convert, or I guess using a more your analogy is really, it's like switching from gasoline-based engine to electric-based cars. So definitely there's a lot of similarity there. We're still at the early phase.
Are you having to juggle two technologies side by side? Is it more complicated what you're doing than one of the, I guess, verticals from either side, just cultured or just doing something that is fermented?
Sure. Yeah, this is very interdisciplinary. So we definitely have to combine the synthetic biology, fermentation, and good old food application to make this product that everyone loves.
It's very interesting, very ambitious as well. So thank you for telling us about it. Chen-Fen Liu, co-founder and CEO at FibraWorks Foods. And
thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And as we mentioned, aiming at both food for human consumption as well as for the pet food vertical. Now let's talk about something that it's a little even hard for me to pronounce. Induced pluripotent stem cells, technology that can deal with one of the most nagging and often challenging issues among both those who are supporters of this sector, but also is leaned on by those who are detractors in this sector. And here's a company that has an answer. Let's hear from Ernst van Aarso about what's happening at Roslin Technologies. Ernst, go ahead.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brian. Let me share my screen.
I'll let you know as soon as we see it.
Let me know if you can see it and if you can hear me.
Yes, we've got you. Take it away.
Very good. So cultivated meat starts with cells. As in any recipe, you need to start with the best ingredient to get the food that you want. At Roslin Technologies, we are the first to deliver high-quality animal cells to cultivated meat producers. With better cells, cultivated meat can reach consumers faster and live up to the expectations of changing the global food system. My name is Ernst van Aarso. I come from a livestock genetics background, and I've seen what you can achieve if you get the basics right. I see a tremendous potential for better cells. Cultivated meat is a very attractive alternative to meat without the need to raise animals. The sector is booming with over $1 billion invested to date, and top protein producers are stepping in. Cultivated meat becomes viable if it's safe, nutritious, and affordable, but currently we are a long way from that. We need to bring cost of production down by a factor 100 or more, and we need to invest over $200 billion to replace 1% of global meat production by 2030. Better cells are going to be essential to achieve that. Cells are the starter ingredient for cultivated meat, and they impact each step of the production process. Ideal cells, they don't require you to resample an animal. They grow efficient and fast and provide a foundation for a fantastic consumer experience. We have talked to many cultivated meat producers, and the reality is the cells that are currently being used in the industry are not good enough. Since 2018, we at Roslin Tech have been working on a unique technology that is ready for use today. We believe that our cells are better for consumers, for regulators, and for producers. So what do? We go back to the basic form of animal life, a pluripotent stem cell. We can take cells from an animal, we program them to become pluripotent stem cells that self-renew forever and can differentiate into any tissue. And our cells don't need fetal bovine serum to grow. Our cells truly differentiate themselves from all the cells that are currently being used in the industry, such as mesenchymal stem cells or primary stem cells that are finite in life and that are deteriorating with age. Perpetual cell renewal is incredibly powerful. Our cells double every 24 hours. That means that if I start with 1 cell on day 1, I have 2 on day 2 and 4 on day 3. After 42 days, I have enough cells to fill a bottle, and after 63 days, enough cells to fill a swimming pool. Wait 1 more day and I have 2 swimming pools. At Roslin Technologies, we are at 400 doublings and counting. With such cells, you don't need to go back to an animal, and you create more consistency in your production process. We are making these cells available to cultivated meat producers today. We do that under long-term collaborative agreements in which we provide continuously improving cell lines, and we tie our interest to their success through a royalty-based structure. By doing so, everybody wins. The cultivated meat producer has access to continuously improving cell lines, the sector becomes viable faster, and we drive attractive returns that we can reinvest in better cells for tomorrow. Our team is our greatest advantage. We have an incredible lab team, and we are backed by the University of Edinburgh. On top of that, we have privileged rights to IP from the Roslin Institute, that is a leader in animal genetics and animal biotech. In my past, I've seen how you can unlock the transformational power of genetics by bringing the right people together, and with this team, we can do that. We are on an exciting journey. We have made tremendous progress to date, and we have a very ambitious plan. To fund that plan, we're kicking off our Series A fundraise. We welcome you to join us in our journey. If you're a cultivated meat producer, I invite you to test and evaluate our cells. If you're interested in cells and want to make a difference, we are looking for great people. And if you're an investor, I would like to have a chat about our fundraise. By improving the cell, cultivated meat can reach the mass consumer market faster, and we can accelerate the transition to a more sustainable food system. Thank you.
Let me ask you. You mentioned you're entering a Series A round here. What do you think, in what is becoming an increasingly busy space that you play in? Although you're clearly differentiated, what do you think is going to be the most attractive thing as you go out on your fundraising?
So what we believe is incredibly attractive is that there's currently nobody that at our scale can provide these cells to the industry, and a lot of companies are struggling with it. And we believe we can actually accelerate their startup, get them to market faster. And we believe that's incredibly exciting.
Now, what's interesting about that is that's an assumption that we are really on the threshold of a massive breakthrough in these products getting out there in the consumer space. Give me a timetable in your expectation. What's in your pitch deck?
So what we say in our pitch deck is that we are tying our success to the success of our customers, right? So as soon as they start selling and they start ramping up production, we see our revenues increasing, basically, that we can continuously reinvest in better cells for tomorrow. So we follow actually what the industry is doing. So if the industry is looking at cost of production reduction by 2028 or 2030, what you see in most of the studies out there, we believe that technology like us can accelerate it by years.
Interesting. All right. Ernst, thank you very much for your time. Ernst van Orzo, CEO of Roslyn Technologies. Let's turn now to a company that I think has one of the most interesting backstories of any of the dozen we're hearing from today in our Pitch Slam, because it's not just a newcomer focused on animal-free meats, it's also an old comer that comes from animal-based meats. And we see so much of a merging of different players from all sides of food come together at the GFI conference. It's one of the most amazing parts of it, traditional big food, animal ag, and the latest innovators. But here's that happening kind of in one little microcosm in one firm. I'm talking about Alfred's Food Tech, formerly known just as Alfred's, going back many decades, a plant-based whole cut foods developer that has its roots in traditional animal meat. Ronnie Reinberg here, co-founder and CEO. Ronnie, tell us the story.
Wow. Thank you, Brian, for the kind introduction. Hello, my name, can you see my screen, Brian?
Yeah, see it great.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Ronnie Reinberg, and I'm the CEO of Alfred's Food Tech, and I'm super excited to be here. I want to thank GFI for the opportunity to present our technology to the world. I came in fully motivated to the alternative protein space after 17 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, and I'm practically enjoying every minute of it. Alfred's is bringing a solution to the biggest gap of the alternative protein industry, the efficient and inexpensive production of whole cuts, such as chicken breast and salmon, which GFI defines as the products most in demand. I'm sure you heard the data that in the US alone, 110 billion pounds of meat are produced per year. But did you know that 60% out of it are considered whole cuts? That's a huge market of around 120 billion US dollars per year. I want to introduce to you one of my friends and one of Alfred's assets, Johnny. We call him Johnny the Flexitarian. What is Johnny looking for? Johnny wants to reduce his dairy consumption. Therefore, in 15 out of 100 times, he will drink a dairy substitute. Johnny really likes plant-based burgers. So in 4 out of 100 times, he will choose an Impossible, a Beyond, or another great brand. However, when Johnny wants to have a salmon or a chicken breast, he has nothing on the shelf that meets his requirements as a flexitarian. And therefore, only 1 out of 1,000 units sold in this category are plant-based. We understand that the most important aspect is scalability. There are 3 main elements that create what we call the triangle of scalability. Taste and texture. If it ain't tasty, no one will buy or eat it in large scale. Affordability and availability. Alfred's has come up with a new platform that addresses all 3 elements. We call this technology Planet Tech, protein layering and nutrient embedding technology. This platform is super versatile. Imagine you can use the same equipment and production line one day for bacon, the second day for yellow cheese, the third day for salmon, and so on and so on. So you can imagine the potential here is huge. You're looking at a great picture of our plant-based chicken nuggets. Look at the fibrous structure. Our chicken nuggets look, and believe me, they also taste very similar to the origin. You're welcome to try them. We have samples. And can be modified to any number of whole-cut products. Here are some examples of the products we've already started working on: cold cuts, chicken nuggets, and chicken breast. This is the first element of the triangle of scalability, taste and texture. The second element is availability. Johnny the Flexitarian wants to know that wherever he goes in the world, he can buy and eat a great alternative protein product. We want to take the world that is presently filled with polluting animal farm factories and switch them into efficient production sites that are more eco-friendly with 95% lower carbon footprint and obviously more humane. This is our vision of sustainability, and this is the impact we want to have on the world. So we can't do this by ourselves. So we are turning into food corporates throughout the world that are already interested in making the change. By using our business-to-business model, we are in fact becoming enablers that provide the platform and technology in their own facility while we are supporting them throughout the process all the way till the product is on the shelf. This will change the animal farm factories into a new and better manufacturing ecosystem. The last element is affordability. We use only known, inexpensive plant-based ingredients, and with a relatively low capex investment, you get a very fast return of investment. We are also enablers for the cultured meat industry and new protein components that can incorporate their innovative materials into our texturization platform. I encourage them to talk to us and try it. I am super proud of our biggest asset, our team, that has more than 100 years of combined experience in innovation and scale implementation. Go, Alfreds! Alfred Weinberg was my grandfather, who, in addition to his motorbiking passion, as you can see, ran a meat factory in Buenos Aires many, many years ago. We are continuing his meat tradition by bringing it into the 21st century. The future of meat production is alternative protein. There is no doubt about it. And Alfred would be proud to see his legacy a part of this revolution. I would like to wrap up with a quote that sums up Alfred's motto perfectly. If you build it, they will come. And just by the way, we are currently in New York and Philly on the roadshow. So if you want to meet us and have some samples, please give us a call and go to our website.
That's the problem with this session. You end up so hungry after listening to all these.
Where are you, Brian? Where are you right now?
I'm in San Francisco, Ronnie.
Okay, so I'm at the East Coast. If you want to take a flight and come by to try, go ahead. It's worth the try.
I bet it is. I bet it is. So let me ask you, because you're one of the few companies in the world I can ask this of that are in your position with one foot in each area. What is going to be the unique advantage of being both a heritage meat company and now something completely different? What can you draw from your company's, your grandfather's company's heritage that pure play plant-based or cultured meat companies cannot?
So we don't have the company was established a year ago. We are using the heritage of meat production and the tradition of meat production, but there's no real heritage. We are all scientists coming from the pharmaceutical industry with many years of experience with a great idea that we want to bring into the alternative protein space. This is our innovation. We have our power is in innovation, not in production. This is why we're working with the B2B model with food companies.
Okay, but clearly, you've got some roots to draw in here into the real meat industry has always, traded on in terms of taste and texture and how it's positioned and things of that nature, which I find very interesting.
I completely agree. Listen, my parents come from Argentina, as you understand, so I was born and raised on steaks.
Yeah.
And I'm a vegan for 10 years, so I really want to enjoy again a good steak.
Yeah.
The texture and the taste of our product is something which is incredible. But the biggest advantage is the scalability. We want to feed the world. Mm-hmm. So we want to join forces with the Tysons and the Nestles and the Tnuvas from Israel and all those companies to work together and bring those incredible whole-cut products to the market, to the shelf.
Go do it. Ronnie, thank you for joining us and telling us all about what's happening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. With one of the most interesting companies we're going to hear from today, Alfred's Food Tech. Again, heritage leading back to traditional meat, although it's a very different and completely separate company today. But anyone with those kind of roots is very interesting. I want to loop back for a moment here and just see. I think we may have Christophe Chantre. If you're still online with us, Christophe, if you can click your ask to share audio and video button. We're pretty much at time here on the Slam, but I want to just pull a couple more in, including Christoph, who unfortunately we had some connection issues with him earlier as he was telling us about Boston Meats. Let me see if we can bring him back in, or if I have, yeah, there he is now. So Christoph, go ahead and share yourself in. And I know we had some technical issues getting your presentation and getting you in there. Go ahead and just give us a quick recap again, so everyone gets a look at what you're doing, and share your presentation just to give you a full shot.
Should I go through it again, or
just give us I think it was the last half we missed, so a fair amount of it. But give us the summary version if you want of the last, maybe the back half of it.
Okay,
share that again with us.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I want to make sure everyone gets a fair shake here. And while you're doing that, Paul Bartels, if you're out there as well, go ahead and click your button that says you're going to share audio and video, because we'd like to bring you in as well. So sorry, everyone's having to see how the plant-based sausage is made here as we try and get all of our technical connections to work. But it's amazing, this global crowd we've got, and it's pretty much working. Anyway, Christoph.
I'll just start talking, or I can just go through it again. Yeah. Should I just go
take
through
a
the
few
whole
minutes.
thing?
Take a few minutes and go through it again. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
I'll let you know as soon as we see it.
For some reason, I can't seem to share this time.
Here's Patrick. He's gonna. I think you may have. A
We
copy of it.
just missed the Q&A. Just
we
FYI.
just missed the Q&A. Okay, great. All right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
then let me
Yeah.
just hit you with a question then, Christoph.
I think you asked me around scalability of our systems.
That's where it was, and that's where I think we had the big freeze. So go ahead and.
So it was just around that. So I mean, I think for us we'd always designed our systems around being highly scalable. I think that was always a big focus for us. Our systems right now are already, of very high throughput. They're orders of magnitude higher in throughput than 3D printing systems and other kind of exploratory technologies that are used, to create better texture. I think that's the first thing I'll say. And the second one is that we're bringing on, we just brought on, for example, a veteran of the food industry that has been director of manufacturing in multiple different food companies and understands how to scale massively some of these systems. And so we're bringing on these type of people to help us actually start scaling that right now. And so we'll be able to hopefully by the end of next year, be in the metric ton production already.
Okay. So some real scale. That's great to hear. All right, very good. Thank you. Thanks for helping us close the loop there. And, sorry about the technical issues we had earlier, but
no, sorry. Have a great day. Thank you.
Internet. You never know what it's going to do. Okay, Christoph, thank you very much. I think that's going to wrap up our pitch slam for this year, everybody. I think we're in good shape here. Let me see. I'm trying to bring on Paul Bartels, though. Let's give it another minute or two if we can here. So, Paul, if you can click the button, there's you either see a share or a waiting for approval. If you see either of those buttons on your interface, that would be great, so we can bring you in here, Paul. It's top right corner, and see if you can see a button up there that's going to say ask to share audio and video, big yellow button. And if you can get that one clicked, we're going to bring you in here, Paul. Otherwise, I think we're going to have to wrap up our slam, but I hate to miss out on this story. It's a good one. So just give you another few moments here, Paul. It's the ask to share audio video in the interface there. And as we're waiting for Paul to come in, I hope you've seen the scope and the scale of the interesting ideas going on. I think this is a much broader, more interesting array than we've ever had before in the lineups of innovators here at GFI as we've done this sort of session. And they've always been really interesting, but this one is really going to show you how this industry is getting very heavyweight in many areas, not just in a few verticals. So you've heard how there's so many different horizontal layers where players are coming from, and they're all starting to get serious, funded, and talking scale. And now I think we almost had Paul. Here's Paul. Good. Whew. Am I happy to see you? All right. Paul Bartels is here, joining us now from, is it Mogale Meat, Paul?
It's Mogale Meat Company.
Mogale Meat Company. Okay.
Yes, Mohali
I
Gambia.
know it's
I'm
an
trying
African
to-
word, and I wanted to make sure I had the pronunciation right, and I knew I wasn't going to get it right. While you're getting your presentation ready, this is a company based in and focused on cellular cultured meat production for Southern Africa, very much aiming in parallel with UN Sustainable Development Goals, and aware that their mission will not just do what sustainable meat does in many parts of the world, but also has kind of a unique responsibility to help to preserve the wildlife reserves and heritage of that part of the world. So they've got a whole nother thing going on. So Paul, as soon as you've got your presentation there and you want to share it, I'll let you know when we see it.
That one.
And then we're going to be happy to kind of cap our pitch slam today with your story.
Yes. Okay. I think
we're about to get it. And there it is. I'm seeing a little video echo though. You're sharing the hop-in screen, so I want you to share your presentation. Let me take a look for you here.
Do you see that? Do you see that now?
No, I'm seeing you share the actual hop-in screen. So that's not the right screen to share. If you can.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Yep.
And then I'm going to just go out of this again and show. And I'm going to.
And you should have some choices in there, and one of them should be your presentation.
Yes,
that's the one
I
we
see
want
it
to
says entire screen. Just sorry, let's
that's all right.
Get this down. Let's get that up. Let's get it like that.
I can't see what you're doing, but it sure sounds encouraging.
There, share. What do we see now?
I'll let you know. It's coming in now. Nope, sorry, we're still seeing the hop-in screen.
Damn, how do I get to the...
Okay, I can pull it up.
How do I get
Patrick
to the other
Landy
one?
here from the GFI team. I think he has a copy of it. Is that right, Patrick?
Yes, I have the most recent download.
Yes, it is.
Great. So, Paul, if you'll just cue Patrick as you want to go through each slide, and he'll run it for us. And you should see it there in your interface as well momentarily. It should be coming up. There we go. Take it away, Paul. And Patrick will do your slides for you.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to present Meet Our Future. We're based in Pretoria, South Africa. And we are dealing with cell culture meat production in Southern Africa. Next slide. Next slide. Hi, my name is Paul Bartels, and I'm the CEO of Mohali Meat Company. Next slide. I've been privileged to work with wildlife species most of my career. Next slide. And at the same time have built up a biobank of wildlife tissue in South Africa. Next slide. Emily is going to be co-presenting with me. Over to you, Emily.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Tafi. I'm a PhD student from Tshwane University of Technology, and I'm working on the development of scaffolds for cultivated meat products.
Next slide. Next slide.
So in Africa, we are blessed with a rich array of wild species and habitats, and this creates revenue from foreign exchange. However, the wild species are also consumed. Next slide, please. And then we have like two major challenges, which are climate change, and over the next 30 years, we are expected to have 1 billion more people. Next slide, please. And with climate change, we are also expecting to have an increased amount of droughts. Next slide. So together with human population growth, we will have to experience a catastrophic collapse in wildlife species.
Next slide.
So if you look on the eastern side of the South African map, we can see that there's major land transformation.
Next slide.
However, we are thinking of a solution. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
And we have hatched a plan. Can you go to the previous slide, please? We have hatched a plan, and we are ready to take off.
Meet Our Future, we have the solution. We're going to be producing meat, taking a sample from a small animal and building up this meat because, again, in Africa, the demand for meat is increasing tremendously. So we need to produce more meat now, and at the same time, it creates revenue, both for the local market and for export. Remembering that we have a huge amount of species, or many different species, and again, using these different species to develop novel foods going forward. Next slide. Our vision is one of One Health. So healthy people, healthy environment, and healthy animals. Next slide. We've put together next slide. We've put together a partnership of 4 organizations: Mogale Meat Company, CryoWild, University of KwaZulu-Natal, and Tshwane University of Technology. Next slide. Mogale Meat Company, next slide. Mogale Meat Company, run by myself. Next slide. Where we're collecting samples for both wildlife species and domestic stock. Next slide. Our Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Sheena Fraser, has a number of years experience in bioprocessing. Next slide. And we are using these samples that we've been collecting and starting with benchtop bioprocessing. Next slide. We have so far over 500 cryopreserved cell cultures derived from wild animal species and cattle. Next slide. Next slide. And our partnership then, part of our public-private partnership includes University of KwaZulu-Natal, Professor Nisler and Dr. Snyman. Next slide. And with UKZN, they are running the stem cell lab down at that university. And then with Tshwane University of Technology, we have Dr. Du Plessis, Professor Riglia, and of course, Emily, who you just heard speaking now. And they are in the food technology and biotechnology unit. Next slide. We're very fortunate that we one of the 28 semi-finalists in the X Prize Feed the Next Billion. Next slide. And we're the only team from the continent of Africa. So we've got a very tight schedule. We've got to get to the semi-finals, which is in about a year's time, at which time 10 finalists will be chosen. And then there's another year period to get to the final testing and judging for the X Prize. So we're really excited about this. Next slide. Next slide. So our ask is for $250K to help us get to our next stage, the X Prize, Feed the Next Billion. And we're looking for a primary team sponsor to help us on this route of ours. There's a huge amount of value available from a marketing and exposure point of view for the primary team sponsor that joins us. Next slide. And beyond the X Prize, of course, with this partnership, we are advancing Southern Africa's cell culture meat ecosystem and investing in Southern Africa's food security and wildlife conservation. Next slide. Next slide. Cell culture meat has made an entrance in Africa, and we're busy with this partnership developing this ecosystem to go forward. It's very exciting, it's new, and we feel that this is the beginning of something big in Southern Africa. Next slide. I want to thank you to Good Food Institute for allowing us to present. Of course, we have some of our sponsors already, Cult Food Science from Canada, Sustainable Food Ventures from the US, and others that are supporting us in this venture. Thank you very much. A really great conference, and we look forward to the next day as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Paul. And thanks for hanging in there with us. It was good to get you on to have the final word. Let me ask you this. So you mentioned, for example, in the case where you are the only entrant from your part of the world in that one competition there, what is it that you need that you may not have access to that maybe firms in other regions have based where you are in Southern Africa? Because I know we're all looking for partners here, right? What is it that you maybe are lacking in your regional network that you could use help with?
Well, obviously we're sitting at the southern end of Africa. Supply chains are very difficult to handle in our area, but we are managing. We've developed some very good partnerships already, which is very exciting. And we're looking for some more partners, because this is a huge opportunity for someone to assist us with regards to the type of exposure that XPRIZE, Feed the Next Billion, have. They obviously, it's a massive competition. There's a lot of competition out there on this, the 28 semi-finalists, but we feel that we actually have an opportunity here. And again, we want to develop this ecosystem in Southern Africa. So this would be a great start to really kick off the ecosystem in Southern Africa.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're doing that, and for the reasons that are unique to your region, as well as to the reasons that are common to around the globe in all markets. And good luck on your effort there along in the XPRIZE pursuit as well. Paul Bartels joining us, co-founder and CEO of Mohale Meat Company. I think I got that right. So a fascinating dozen that we just saw here. No winners, because they're all winners at the GFI Pitch Slam. Again, thank you again to our sponsors of the Pitch Slam. These are companies that know that it's always good to get themselves wrapped around these interesting innovators in this rapid fire round we do every year here at the session. I'm Brian Cooley, editor at large at CNET. Thank you so much for being with us for the Pitch Slam and working with us through a few technical hiccups that are just part of bringing together a global group across different technology layers and different time zones. But wow, what an interesting world tour of what's going on right now in the future of good meat. Stand by on the conference. We're about to wrap day 2, and that's going to be with a final session called What Will It Take for Alternative Proteins to Feed the World? Interesting. That echoes the competition, the XPRIZE competition that Paul Bartels was just talking about, his company being involved in. So that's coming up, and just about, let's see, about 13 minutes from now, we'll be starting that up. Our day 2 wrap here at the GFI Conference 2021. Thanks for joining us for the Pitch Slam, and enjoy the rest of the conference today and later.